I'm Brent, and this is
John.
And we have just had our 40th anniversary a few days ago.
Yay.
And so we're doing this series on our relationship. And today's topic is dealing with our differences. You know, research has shown that for gay lesbian couples, the more different they are, the longer they are likely to stay together. So it means that we're probably going to have an 80 or a 90 year relationship because of how different we are. So how do we manage those differences?
Just do what I say.
So the first week we got together, the differences almost scuttled our relationship.
Brent would wake up early in the morning, singing Baptist Bible camp songs.
Rise and shine and give God the glory, glory.
Now, I'm a lot of a nighthawk. Mornings are not my best time of life. Mornings are really not my best time of life because I'm a bit of a nighthawk. So, Brent getting up and singing Baptist Bible camp songs first thing in the morning was not a good thing for John.
And John said, if you keep this up, this is going to be a very short relationship. So I stopped singing songs
Hallelujah.
early in the morning. Now, when we first got together, John's main interests were bodybuilding and opera and ballet and the arts. And I had never gone to a gym that much. And I wasn't really into ballet or opera.
You'd never been.
True.
Going to an art gallery was unknown territory for you.
Yes, you said I had no taste in art. And I said I loved paintings of sunsets and cows in a field. I remember the time we went to Ottawa, we went to the National Gallery to see Voice of Fire.
Yes.
And when you saw it, you were standing in awe and said...
Well, it has strength, it has visual impact, it's a very impressive painting and put in a wonderful surrounding.
Now, before I tell you what my impression was, you need to know that Voice of Fire was, is it 2 red and 1 blue or 2 blue and 1 red?
2 blue and 1 red.
2 blues and 1 red. And I said, what I see is a paint roller. And so we have different impressions. And then there was that time in New York, whenever we go on vacation, he wants to go to piles of art galleries. And so I just did one day to do art galleries, and we'll go wherever you want. So we were in New York, and we went to some really nice places, and then we went to...
Well, we went to the Whitney Museum, and the Whitney is very much more modern American art, and conceptual art, too. And in the Whitney, you go up an elevator to get to the different floors in the museum. And the elevator stopped at this one floor, and it had this huge concrete room in it. And on one side of the entire room, huge room, they were telecasting 1980s video games of bowling. And I turned around and Brent's jaw just kind of dropped in a mixture of horror and disbelief and amazement, and it made the whole visit really quite worthwhile.
Yes. So when we were leaving the gallery that day, there was this perky, volunteer at the door saying goodbye to everybody, and I was terrified that she was going to ask me what I liked the best, because if she did, I was going to say the exit sign. And when I told John, he was horrified that I might do that. Anyway.
Well, if art is visual entertainment, that was certainly a memorable point in our lives.
So, my interests in those early days was the church, and as I said, John had given up on religion and sports, and John didn't know the difference between football and a basketball. I loved planning for vacations, and John couldn't see why it was necessary, and I said, well, you have to book an airplane ticket, or you have to book a hotel. I was an early bird, as we said, and John was a nighthawk. I had grown up in a large family.
I was the only child.
My parents were never around because they worked all day long.
My mom was always around.
And she worshipped him and spoiled him and pampered him and took care of all of his needs.
And there's a problem with this?
So, 2 very, very different people. God has a sense of humor. I'll put those 2 together and see what happens. And so I really have never still taken on to opera, and John has shown no interest in sports. Now, we did have an interesting example in our family, how this all came together.
Yeah, we were in Fredericton, and the whole family was going to a hockey game in which our nephew Dylan was playing. I think he was the captain of the team or something, and you really want to show up and be supportive. But you know, my eyes are glazing over because it's hockey. And mercifully, the family had plotted to take me out at halftime to the Beaverbrook Art. Is it halftime?
End of first period.
They took me out to the local art gallery, which is a very nice art gallery. And so I was able to be supportive of Dylan and not die from boredom.
We all knew ahead of time that this was not going to be John's thing, so we had to find some way to rescue him. But
good in-laws.
It was kind of fun watching him doing
really
the first.
Good in-laws. Thank you, Jackie.
So anyway, so
we give each other space for our differences, and the differences enrich the relationship. Brent is much more aware of the visual environment around him, of colors and patterns, and the complexity of art because of the artwork that I've done. And I got much more involved in church. Spectator sports, no.
And one of John's interests is steampunk, and I have no desire, no interest to ever dress up in costume. However, John is very creative, and I love the steampunk community. I love going to events because people are so non-judgmental and welcoming, and John is in his glory. And so, you know, for the past 40 years, there's been some times when John's been walking in my shadow, and when we go to steampunk events, I walk in his shadow and I carry his hat boxes, his many hat boxes. I love that.
Steampunk, think of Wild Wild West or Victorians running around with ray guns.
And so sometimes, because our interests are different, we flipped. Now I'm obsessive about working out, and
I'm pretty insistent that going to church on Sunday keeps you on the right path.
And then some things we joined together on. John was on and off vegetarian for most of his life, and he discovered some books that were very helpful.
I picked up a book called Skinny Bitch. Brent told me I was halfway there already. I'm not going to say which half, too easy. And then there was a recipe book from the same authors called Skinny Bitch in the Kitch.
Amazing recipes. And so we'd have a lot of those at home, but I usually would eat, you know, chicken or hamburger when we were out at a restaurant. And so then their third book was called Skinny Bastard, and it was trying to persuade men to be vegan. And I read it, and I decided to be vegetarian, and John was stunned. And so we've been
overnight, he went.
It did, immediately. And so we've been vegetarian now for over 12 years. So now that we've talked about our differences and negotiating our differences, it's time now for us to move on and plan our next vacation.
Why?
Book an airfare, book a hotel, decide where to go, and looking forward to it.
You don't need to.
Anyway, if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. And if you want to subscribe, then you should
click the subscribe button, and there's a little bell that pops up beside it that will, if you hit that bell, it will tell you when we next post. That's
okay.
A good thing. Or you could hit the like button. Yeah.
Thank you.